Hello traders, welcome to your market update for Tuesday the 24th of March 2015, and we've seen a continuation of the US dollar profit taking on the back of last week's FOMC minutes, and I think it's just a flow-on effect, and the bond yield market is also reflecting that the market is yet to jump back into the rate hike bets that were on prior to this news. Now, given that we don't have a lot of data coming out besides some more consumer price, we've got some housing data, some durable goods, and maybe a revision to the fourth quarter GDP and the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. I don't see that those are going to really shock the market and introduce the US dollar bulls. However, we are still yet to hear from some more Fed chair members, and if they express their opinions towards a rate hike in some stage this year, the US dollar bulls could then enter the market. So we just need to be wary of the speeches and what people have to say there. Now, we've had support in the Australian dollar, which has rallied on the back of gold being supported and also this US dollar profit taking. Euro has been supported on the back of cheaper oil and the fact mainly that the European Central Bank mentioned last night that they could possibly, they're on target to meet their $60 billion a month quantitative easing program. And we are starting to see some signs of improvement in terms of data, and that's leading the members to start speculating that they could actually finish up the Eurozone's quantitative easing program early. Now, it's very early for them to be saying this. They only just started it. Nonetheless, the market has jumped onto this, and also that's offered a little bit of support for the euro. But we still have ongoing political troubles in Greece, and we still have a lot of hurdles for the Eurozone to overcome for them to get back onto track. So I don't think that there's really a need for a party just yet. However, I am still of the opinion that we will continue to see improving data out of the Eurozone. Now, that's on the back of what is already very low base. So when you have a very low base to begin with, it's not hard to outperform the data on high percentage marks. So if we do continue to see some supportive data, the euro may have a little bit further to run higher yet before the US dollar bulls come in. So it's just going to be a juggling act there on the fundamental side. Now, coming up tonight, we do have some pound data, and this is going to be quite interesting to see what happens. We did have some weak data from the export figures. They hit a 2-year low last night out of the UK, and if we continue to see some weak data, the pound could continue to maintain its fairly weak stance compared to all the other currency pairs, except for, of course, the euro. Except for against the US and other weak pairs, we will see that the pound should continue to sell off. The US dollar, we do have some consumer price index, as I mentioned. I don't expect a huge movement here, but we do have Bullard's speech, and if he starts throwing his opinion into a rate hike next year, that could add to the US dollar bulls. Now, we are getting to some key points on the technical chart, and that's why I'm quite interested to see what happens this week and where the US dollar bulls actually lead us. So let's go over to that chart, and as you can see, we do have this rising channel, and we have had a pullback, and we are getting towards the lows that we've seen as the market was quite volatile last Thursday on the FOMC minutes, and I'm expecting to potentially see some support around this area. Now, it doesn't have to be today, and it doesn't have to be right here. It could actually dip below and test. It could come down and test this historical resistance level. But I expect some support to come in this period here. So I'm very keen to see what happens with the currency and the US dollar index over the next few trading sessions, that's for sure. Now, for now, and you go to a shorter time frame, it is very much a bearish trend. And I did post a chart on Twitter, and there was a shorting opportunity there. I did have an uptrend line going through the lows on Thursday, the lows again on Monday, and then we took that out and it continued to fall throughout the session. Now, that also led to the US dollar coming under quite fierce selling in other currency pairs, and there was opportunities to be made there. So that's why it's important to keep an eye on the actual data. So let me have a look at the charts. So we're on the New Zealand versus the US, and it's taken out the highs, but I've mentioned that we've broken the downtrend, and I'm very interested to see where it goes from here. And if the US dollar bears remain, we could see it push higher and test the 77 cent in today or tomorrow's trading session. Now, I've highlighted in yellow an area where historically we have seen resistance or support for the market. Now, currencies don't move to the pip and test specific resistance levels. There is areas of grey, and I've highlighted the areas of grey in this particular case in yellow, meaning that yes, we've taken out the high, but maybe we've overshot it a little bit as the market's got a little bit excited selling US dollar, and we could find resistance at a higher level before everybody jumps on long and wants to trade it from here all the way up to there and holds a fairly large stop loss risk level. I think it's a bit premature to be getting in just yet, but you can't rule out these positions. I just want to quickly note that I have now taken profit just purely on yesterday's daily candle on the Australian versus the New Zealand on this trade. So just recently taken profit. There was over a couple of hundred pips from selling over here over many trading sessions, as you can see, and I've just taken profit just purely on the daily candle. And I think I've banked enough there, and I'll continue to see how it rolls out before I look to potentially entering it again on the fundamental basis that Australia's economy is diverging in a weaker sense to the New Zealand. Let's have a quick look at the Australian, and it has taken out this downtrend line that I mentioned, and that's a fairly significant move, and that's what's got me also not too unsure about the direction, and we are coming up to testing here the 79.1. Now, if this is taken out, this is a major swing low that has been taken out, and we now have higher swing lows, and technically that is the start of a new trend. So I'm very interested to see what happens around in this period here as to whether we get some bears kicking in and the US dollar strength picks up on the back of some Fed members talking. So it's quite interesting to see there, but nonetheless in the short term, if I go to a 1 hourly chart, we do have an uptrend. You do put in your trend lines here. Now, if we get a low, if we get a breach of today's low, there's a scalping opportunity shorting the breakout of that low. There's a scalping opportunity shorting the breakout of this low, and I'll be able to make some money as it falls potentially. So that's something that I will be looking at, and just a heads up there as the market did stall last night at 79 cents. So should we get the US dollar strength kick in to this session, I do believe there is some quick pips to be made there and there. The Great British Pound is being fairly weak as others rose quite heavily against the US dollar, but that is on the back of export orders hitting a low, and we do see that we had the market pretty much closed where it opened, and we are very much in a consolidating range. So it's going to be interesting to see whether we can actually push above the $1.50 if the US dollar bears come in, and if so, I think there will be some buyers jumping on board, but we need to keep into mind that it's all about the US dollar story until tonight's data that we do have coming out. And should it be weak, I think that we could see it slide a little bit lower. Now, we are definitely not in a trending market, so if you're going to do and trade that, I suggest you look at scalping strategies there. The euro has come up and tested a major downtrend line, and we are still below Thursday's high, and we're still in a downtrend, so we need to keep that in mind. We have seen a boost on the back of the comments from the ECB potentially indicating that quantitative easing could be ended early. It's just a nothing statement in my eyes, because yes, we are getting a little bit more of an improvement in the Eurozone data, but that is, as I said earlier, off a small base, and it's way too early to be saying whether the easing program is actually doing its due course work. And Greece has got a lot of hurdles to come over, as they are going to run out of money very soon. Let's have a look at the CAD. Well, before I go past that, we need to look, and if this high is taken out here, if I go to a 1 hourly chart and we take out this high, I do believe we'll make a run to $1.10. But just like the Australian, if the lows of today are taken out and we get the US dollar strength kick in today's session and we take out the 109, I do see that there is some scalping opportunities breaking through that level, and likewise yesterday's support level as well. So keep an eye on that and keep an eye on the US dollar, as that is the key that the markets are still looking at and focusing on. The US dollar did come off, as I mentioned, and the oil did bounce, so it only made sense for the US dollar versus the CAD to pull back, but we are still testing the downtrend line of a previous breakout triangle down here, and we've tested it on Thursday. We're testing it again. We haven't taken out the lows, and it's quite obvious that through this area here there has been a lot of choppy behavior, and we could definitely get that again, subject to the US dollar and oil prices. So definitely keep an eye on that, and we could get some choppy behavior as we move back into historical area that's definitely offered support and likewise resistance. So we're going to need a big move to break out of that. So once again, I'll be looking for some scalp opportunities there in the short term. Very much similar story for the US versus the Japanese yen. We're still within this uptrend. We still haven't taken out the lows. I am confident that this will go higher eventually, as the US will be raising rates this year, it looks like, and we will get the US dollar bulls back into the market. Now it's just a game of when. So we need to keep an eye on the technicals and look for opportunities and work our way down through the daily to shorter time frames and try to keep an eye on it all and make money as we trade with the trend for now, which is grinding lower ever so slightly, but keeping an eye and being very much aware that a potential bounce could come about. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it offered some insight. I'll be back again tomorrow. And until then, trade well.